Good afternoon, dear students. The theme of the lesson, writing an article. Learning objectives. Use talk or writing as a means of reflecting on and exploring a range of perspectives on the world. Use independently appropriate layout at the text level on a range of general and curricular topics. Punctuate written work at text level on a wide range of general and curricular topics with a good degree of accuracy. By the end of this lesson, all the students will be able to read an article and define its layout. Most students will be able to write 150-word article with a proper layout and self-assess it. Some students will be able to write 220-word article with a proper layout. Activity 1. Reading. Let's read the text and then be ready to answer the questions. Doctors at San Antonio Community Hospital managed last night to save the life of 17-year-old George Brooke from a mysterious illness that had dramatically already claimed the lives of his father and grandfather years before. But as well as preventing the young man from dying, medical experts have also managed to solve an old mystery that has been haunting the Dixon family for generations. George Brooke became ill late on Tuesday night. When his mother Barbara saw the symptoms, she immediately feared the worst. His skin turned gray and he began to have problems breathing. It seemed she was witnessing exactly the same illness that had taken her husband 20 years earlier and her father-in-law 20 years before that. The boy was rushed to hospital where doctors diagnosed him as suffering from the effects of snake venom. Also, the poisonous was already in the later, dangerous stages of development. They were likely able to administer the antidote in time. However, the doctors were still left mystified as to how the venom had entered his body. They found no snake bite and the boy hadn't reported seeing a snake that day. The only thing he could remember that was a little strange was feeling a small prick on his foot when he had put on his cowboy boots. It turned out that it had been George's birthday that day and one of his presents had been a pair of boots that had originally belonged to his grandfather. When questioned further, Barbara told of how both other members of the family had died under unexplained circumstances while wearing these boots. There was talk of how the boots had been cursed by a rattlesnake that her father-in-law had stamped to death with wearing the boots a few days before he died. She had always refused to believe the story. The doctors examined the boots and mysteriously found the fan of rattlesnake embedded in the sole of the right boot. Incredibly, it still contained enough poison to kill several people. At last it seems that the revenge of the snake is over. Now answer the questions. The first question: do you believe story? Why? Why not? And the second question: what kind of newspaper do you think it comes from? You are quite right, it is a newspaper article. And do you remember the structure of the newspaper article? Activity 2. Pre-writing. Watch a video and take notes on important points.
How to write articles. An article is a piece of writing which normally appears in newspapers and magazines. Increasingly, you are also finding articles online. Depending on the type of article or publication, an article can be either formal or informal. A number of different writing techniques can be used when writing an article. For example, argumentative techniques, narrative techniques, descriptive techniques. Before you start writing any type of article, you should consider what type you are writing, so that you can use the appropriate layout and style. For instance, in a formal article, you should use an impersonal style. In a less formal article, you may address the reader directly, if your topic and style permits it. Make sure that you maintain the style in both the headline and throughout the article. You should also make a list of the points you want to include in your article, and plan your article around this list. A good article should consist of a headline, an introduction, a main body, and a conclusion. The headline should be eye-catching and sum up the general point of the article. Therefore, you should omit auxiliaries, articles, and some prepositions when writing the headline. Use words and phrases that attract the reader's attention, and which give the reader an idea of the style of the article. This can, for instance, be achieved by being selective of the tenses you use. The introduction should be one paragraph, and should make a general statement about the topic of your article. However, it is important that you keep the reader's attention, so the introduction must be interesting. You can achieve this by, for example, stating an opinion, making reference to a strange scene or situation, addressing the reader directly, starting with a quotation or rhetorical question, or starting with a problem that needs a solution. The main body could be 2 or more paragraphs long. Here you should describe in detail the main issue or issues. Each paragraph should deal with a different idea or issue, which is developed throughout it. The last sentence of each paragraph should lead to the next paragraph, and you should try and incorporate appropriate linkers and sequencing. Avoid using simplistic adjectives. Use more sophisticated vocabulary instead. The conclusion should be your final paragraph, and this is where you give your article an appropriate ending. You can do this in a number of different ways. For instance, by stating a personal opinion, giving the reader something to consider, summarizing the article, or ending with a quotation.
You have just watched the video, and can you tell me the structure of the article? You're quite right. The layout of the article: headline, introduction, main body, and conclusion. Writing an article. When writing an article, you want to inform your readers about a certain issue and express your opinion about it. You might also want to give advice or suggest actions to your readers. The language and degree of formality should be appropriate for your readers. If you use ideas from other materials, restate in your own words the author's views, arguments, and examples of what might be relevant to your point. The first stage of writing an article is preparation. Study the task carefully. Does the task tell you the target group your article should address? The kind of magazine brochure you are writing for? Which aspects you should be dealing with? The purpose your article should fulfill, for example, to discuss, comment on opinion, evaluate, offer solutions to a problem. If you ask to base your article on information from a given text, study it carefully. Find and underline the information that is relevant to the task. Highlight key ideas referring to the topic of your article. Consider which aspects you want to use to support your argument and message. Add your own ideas based on your notes about the issue, making notes for your introduction, main part, and conclusion. Select the beginning suitable for arousing the audience interest at the beginning of the article. Narrow down arguments the main part should contain or refute. Narrow down facts, examples, illustrating your arguments and counterarguments. Find facts, experiences, values, issues, problems, which show that the message of your article is relevant to the reader's interest. Put your notes in a convincing logic. Make sure the content of your notes is relevant to the task, your target group, and the message you want to convey. Find an adequate eye-catch heading. Make it as catchy as possible, but bear in mind the target magazine and target group you are writing for. Introduction. When writing an introduction, please try to arouse the reader's interest with an intriguing or opening sentence. You can include anecdotes, amusing stories, interesting events to capture the reader's attention. Clearly define your topic, focusing on the central idea of the main message you want to convey. Outline the facts explaining what, who, when, and where. Make clear why your issue is important. Briefly introduce your main arguments. The main part of the article. Focus on the most important points. If you base your article on available texts, refer to the general ideas of the material. Underline your main arguments by giving convincing explanations. Include examples, evidence, statistical information, personal experiences to illustrate and strengthen your arguments. Conclusion. Indicate that you are coming to your conclusion through phrases such as in conclusion, finally, as a result, to sum up. Make sure your readers get your message through a convincing final statement, repetition of your main points, an outlook for the future, a call to action. Points to remember. Use your own words when referring to ideas from the given material. Make sure what you write helps to convey your message. Prove what you say with text references. Activity 3. Writing an article. Write your own newspaper article, applying the previously learned vocabulary and grammar. The assessment checklist. If your article is written in style which is adequate for the target group, you will get 20 points. The article contains paragraphs and subheadings, 20 points. The opening sentence of the article arouses the reader's interest, 20 points. The facts of article are outlined, 20 points. And the most important ideas are focused, 20 points. Total 100 points. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.